Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Dashy's revenge tour is well underway as he may be on to breaking a record in 8s in terms of victories over the last few days. And is there any truth to the idea that he's been unleashed a bit in 8 without having to play in the system that OpTic were imposing on him? And could he be actually better off in a flex role going forwards rather than as main AR? Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate a lot of new support. Yes, I love to see it. Let's dive into things. Seattle are using in basically every single image you will find at this point. I can understand exactly why. These are the 5 matches they will play, of course, only starting in a couple of days' time at this point, with Paris, or Vegas, apologies, being their first one. I still see this logo and think Paris. They really should have changed it, but, you know, whatever can you do? Quick note as well on what's happening on Sunday. This is one of the other big games of the weekend, LA Thieves versus LA Guerrillas, and I thought this is kind of funny, actually, between Hicksy and Drazah, because you guys might know the drama there a couple of years ago, 3-0'd when it mattered, you know, etc, etc. You guys might remember from the Modern Warfare season when Drazah came in for OGLA and Hicksy was he on the Minnesota Rokkr at that time? There was some drama between the both of them regardless, and of course Hicksy is now back in the starting team for LAG, or at least he's back in the starting team in the league, and they put, for some reason, the graphic here, they put Kenny versus Hicksy, whereas it would have made way more sense to put Drazah and Hicksy, and yeah, as Drazah says, on God, they fumbled the bag on that one. Just a quick note for you guys as well, because yesterday we saw that Clayster and Temp were trying to get anyone they possibly could to sponsor them or to fund them for some sort of you know, apartment right over the next couple of months in Vegas or just wherever, so they can actually play as a team. And even Temp last night was talking to Mr. Beast, or at least trying to get Mr. Beast on the line and say, look, please get something going. Okay, maybe the Feastables Legion House is the way to do it, but yeah, they're going to keep trying because the organization will unfortunately keep failing to provide. And also, just a quick note on the subs versus the ARs. It's been a big discussion again over the last few days, where some of the ARs believe the Vaznev is way too strong. Now, I certainly don't think it's way too strong. I mean, look, Dashy's going to drop 52 kills here at 8 in a second with the Scar in hand, so I don't think it's way too strong. But nonetheless, there is an argument there that maybe the balance isn't perfect right now. Maybe the SMGs are slightly better than they should be, and some of the ARs still not happy about it. I mean, look, in fairness, look at this kill from Brasini. Unlucky, this guy Pookie just gets completely destroyed, and yeah, Arcitys reckons subs are blessed, but still, maybe that's not the full end of the story, and there might be more to come going forward. Also, this from Esports charts thought was pretty crazy, and honestly a big W for the COD scene. Now, in fairness, this is why it's so good, I think, starting some of these matches in December, just because in December there's not that many other esports that really go on. Okay, there was some CS stuff. I'm pretty sure Blast Premier as well, like, they stream on both CSGO and YouTube, I think, so that, you know, their peak viewership would have been higher overall, but nonetheless, still, in terms of pure Twitch, Call of Duty actually had the highest peak of any esports channel during the month of December, which is impressive stuff. Of course, as I say, there's not a crazy amount of other esports going on, but that's why Call of Duty is well positioned to take advantage of that by having the season starting earlier. Hopefully next year it could even start even earlier, like November, October or something like that. But December's pretty good, and 164,000 was the peak between Florida and OpTic Texas on. That's just the one specific channel, right? You then include all the co-streams and stuff, and we got a number far higher than just that. Let's talk about the Dashy stuff then. So as Pomage says, first of all, I don't know if he's actually talking about Dashy, but I thought it was kind of interesting. Wouldn't mind seeing the Batman in FaZe. This is a question that has been raised recently. Okay, whether Dashy, after getting removed from the OpTic team, goes to somewhere else. Could it be FaZe? Maybe Slasher is kind of questioning things, whether what his future is going to be based on this screenshot we'll see here in a second. But also, should Dashy be in a flex role? You guys, if you came into the scene during the Black Ops 4 times or even earlier, you'll remember Dashy was not a main AR player. He wasn't the ICR player. In fact, he refused to use the ICR, I believe, because I think Crim said that when they played 100 Thieves, because they had Octane and Slasher, that 100 Thieves team, when it was 5v5, using ICRs, which was like basically no recoil, main AR, killed in 5 bullets, shoots incredibly straight, but not particularly good at the kind of medium to close ranges. That was the weapon that most of the main ARs used, but Dashy he loved the Maddox, right? Dashy and the Maddox were a pairing that went so well together. That was kind of the flex gun, the AR that was much faster, more like an SMG, not quite like the ICR, shot pretty straight, but it was kind of the middle of the road weapon. That's what Dashy was so good with. And that year, Dashy was not considered a main AR by any means. Yes, he'd come off a World War II season where he did generally use the STG, or he was more of a main AR on that complexity team, and even in Infinite Warfare on straight rip, and I guess he used the K-bar, right? But only over the last few years has he transitioned into more of a main AR. I mean, even you guys remember Formal and Dashy not that long ago. Formal was kind of the main, Dashy was kind of the flex on that team. However, the last couple of years, Dashy's been a quite clear main AR player, like, you know, sitting back, holding the lanes, locking things down and playing maybe slower than he usually would. And there's an argument that says actually Dashy is not particularly well suited to that role, and he should be let off the unleash a little bit more than maybe he wasn't allowed to in the OpTic system that either Rambo or whoever wanted to run. Because I think maybe you could tell at times that Dashy wasn't super comfortable, especially at the start of the season, right? The guy had a 1.0 flat KD pretty much so far in the league, whereas in 8s the last few days, the guy's probably averaging at least a 1.2. Like, and yeah, of course, you can see here, this is a match they played a few days ago when Huke, of course, was announced to the OpTic team, Dashy on the other side of things, but he's been playing a lot of 8s over the last few days, and it's got to be said that Dashy does feel like, since he's been dropped, he has kicked up a new gear in terms of how much he's grinding. Now, he said a few days ago that him playing a lot of this game is not a new thing, he's been grinding an awful lot, but, you know, there's a question as to whether, okay, might be grinding a lot in terms of pure hours on the game, but is there out of game stuff? We know that his teammates have complained about other things, whether it's maturity, attitude, whether it's, you know, turning up on time, having a bad sleep schedule, chalking scrims as a result, just various things like that, whether that's kind of what's contributed it, or whether it's just kind of a thing where they felt like a change was necessary. And we'll see what Hitch actually says on this in a second. He believes that from his understanding, Dashy was getting dropped regardless of the situation, that it was so bad internally, Dashy was always gone, even if they didn't have a replacement ready, even if they had to put Rambo Ray in, Dashy was going to get dropped. We'll see that here in a second. But Dashy, again, like, look, this guy's been on the grind, playing 8s again up against the other best in the world, definitely indicating his intention to stay around. And playing 8s with these guys is a great move for Dashy anyway, just because he can build relationships with these players. Some of the guys that he might not talk to that often, now he can, you know, build some friendships with these guys, such that if their team starts to struggle, all of a sudden, they're calling up Dashy to come in instead. And this was the key moment of last night, really, where Dashy drops 52 kills in a Fortress hardpoint. Now, I kind of looked for some clips of this. There's no crazy clips, really, that came out of his stream last night. I think it's like, if you go to his stream, you go to 1 hour 47, that's when all the 8s matches start. And I think over the last few days, in terms of 8s matches, he's like he's on a 9 win streak or something, which is not far off the all-time records from a couple of years ago, which might be in like the 11, 12, 13 ballpark. So Dashy's not far away from breaking that record, and he's been on fire the last few days. This is the full screenshot here. Dashy drops 2 minutes in the hardpoint, 7,100 damage, 52 kills. Like, I mean, that's a crazy number for this particular map mode combination. Envoy, Havoc, and Slasher, obviously. I mean, look, in fairness for Slasher, if your AR duo is dropping those numbers, there's not many kills to go around for you left, but this is against Vivid, Skies, Kenny, and Drazah. Some of the other, you know, certainly Drazah right now, one of the best 8s players in the game. And yeah, the fact that Dashy's here dropping 52 kills, 2 minutes in the hardpoints is some sort of statement of intent, because we haven't really seen any numbers like this from anyone on this particular map mode combination so far in this game, and Dashy's doing it just a couple of days after getting dropped from the OpTic team. So I do wonder if there is a sense of, because of course to drop 52 kills, you've got to be playing very fast, right? Now, in fairness, those playstyles work in 8s maybe better than they do in real games, because in real games the team is more coordinated, they slow down a little bit, can take advantage of aggression, but I think Dashy generally is better suited, let's say, to when he's off the leash and can just roam around and slay. And I do wonder if in the future, kind of going back from an AR role back to more of a flex role is the way to go. Maybe Rambo wanted to kind of put Dashy in that AR box and, you know, tell Dashy, okay, you've got to do this, got to do this, got to do this to hold the spawns and all this, but I'm not sure Dashy is necessarily so well suited to doing that, and he's better just almost being a Sib in a way, right? I feel like they could be kind of similar. Sib just kind of does whatever he wants and drops crazy numbers in damage and impact, and Accuracy does the dirty work, standard AR type stuff that you've got to do to get your team rotation, sit in the hill where necessary. So I do wonder if there's an element there of, if Dashy was to become a flex again and kind of be that Dashy Maddox that we had in Black Ops 4, that might be where he's actually most impactful, and therefore it opens up more options for teams, right? Because right now, yesterday we looked at, okay, which teams need an AR, like, or main AR, right? Not really many right now, maybe a Boston, maybe a Rokkr, depending on what they do over there. But if Dashy all of a sudden's like, look, I'm going to play really fast with this Scar, I'm potentially going to use an SMG if absolutely required, and I'm going to be more of that fast-paced flex player, then it opens up more doors for him, right? But then again, you know, for Dashy to prove that, he's probably going to have to use the SMG at least some of the time here in 8s, which I don't really know if he's so comfortable doing. So intrigued to your thoughts on that down below, but it's definitely been an argument that I've seen here over the last couple of days. Now, I wanted to mention further on this Dashy topic what Hitch had to say on it, because the Flycast came out, I believe, last night, and Hitch had a really interesting comment, actually, because he still doesn't know the full story behind the scenes. He was trying to ask Scump, and Scump even wouldn't tell him what was going on. But from his understanding, the internal situation was so bad that a change was happening regardless of a replacement.
That's pretty bad.
It was to the point where, like, I go up to Seth at the hockey shoot. I'm like, how are you doing, man? He was like, I'm doing good. I was like, y'all figuring things out?
He's got to be pissed.
And he was like, we're trying.
But I mean...
But it was to the point where he was like, I would tell you what's going on, but, like, I'm not telling anyone. I was like, damn, not even
No one
me?
really was guessing. Everyone was saying Pred.
Well,
I was kind of saying Pred.
The last I heard was Alec, and then I heard maybe Paul, and then I heard PaulEhx, and then I heard maybe Pred, and I was just like, well, I mean, at that point, like, I hope you guys. It's just crazy that it was like nothing was lined up, and it was apparently on the internals it got so bad where like a change had to be made even without like there was no going back, which I think is that's wild. I'm sad.
I mean, they tried it. Yeah, I love that team too. I love Dashy. He was always a good vibe around here.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
But I mean, it's just
so kind of crazy, really, that they effectively dropped Dashy like without even knowing if a replacement was on the line. And maybe okay, they thought, we can get Pred, we can get Arcitys, we can get someone. And in fairness, they did get Huke at the end of the day without too much difficulty. It turned out that Huke was a relatively easy acquisition. There wasn't really so much of a big deal to actually get onto the team. But nonetheless, it's like they weren't even considering keeping Dashy. It was just a case of Dashy's 100% gone, and whether that was internal things, whether that was just relationships that completely broke down, I don't know. Look, Shotzzy said the other day there's no bad blood between him and Dashy, at least from Shotzy's side, but he kind of implied that from Dashy's side he's not so happy with the way the team has treated him. You can understand why, but look, Dashy got his 4.5 years on OpTic, he had his chances, it's not worked out, and look, he can maybe move on to brighter patches. I do think this split can honestly work better for both parties in the long term, but as I say, maybe there's an element of which Dashy needs to step into a kind of Sib role, and I thought this is pretty good for Sib here, just, getting some free impressions on Twitter last night, bowing down to the king to some respects, which I thought was kind of interesting. I don't know if they were scrimming last night, Seattle and Scump was going off on the main stage, or exactly what was happening there, but still, I thought it was interesting to know. So definitely intrigued your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Dashy's revenge tour seems to have now officially begun. I'm sure he's eyeing up his options, and as we did look at yesterday, right, there's some teams, maybe a Seattle, but seems unlikely, Rokkr, Boston, probably are some of the key candidates there that might be looking to make a change. I think the Rokkr one might make the most sense just from my perspective, because at the end of the day, are Boston going to pick up Dashy before Beans? Maybe, because Beans has been their guy they're trying to bring in. If they continue to struggle, they probably just get Beans first, because why not? That's the whole plan, right? Okay, maybe a spanner gets thrown in the works now, Dashy is available, but yeah, I think that Dashy, if he can prove that playing in that flex position is actually where he can belong, which I think he's kind of doing over the last few days here with what he's performing like in Aches with that fast-paced role, then I think there's more questions to be asked there, because then he could theoretically replace a Cammy or an Awakening or pretty much any flex on decent teams if they want to consider other changes. So hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you are new, take care, and I'll see you next time.
Embassy social story now coming up after this. On it that way. Tell me why ain't nothing.
There's no way these guys were doing this. Bro, there's no way!
Seattle's got nothing on us. It's gonna be a fun map because again, at least on the side of Seattle.
Yo, that's disrespectful.
They have to get a stupid when to beat us.
No!
They can't beat us legit.